We brought you this story first a few months ago. We have an update. School bus driver who allowed a 6-year-old to die has now been sentenced. The sentence is 3 years. Put up the picture full mask. For those who may not remember, let me give you the background and the update as well. Amanda Davila, a former New Jersey school bus aide, has been sentenced for the death of Fajr Williams. The young Miss Williams was 6 years of age with special needs. Williams suffocated on a bus ride to school in 2023. Davila was found guilty of child endangerment earlier this year in connection to the death. I'm going to go into some of the details about the incident. So as a bus monitor, I remember this is her job. As a bus monitor, she was given the task of looking after Williams and other special needs children during rides to and from school in Franklin Township, New Jersey. On July 17th, 2023, on the way to a summer program, the 6-year-old was strangled by a 4-point harness that secured her wheelchair to the bus. Authorities say the 6-year-old had not been strapped in properly beforehand, and a series of bumps in the road caused her to slump in her seat, leaving the harness to tighten around her neck when she slipped. There's surveillance video. The surveillance video showed the 6-year-old struggling to breathe as the bus monitor was on her phone, wearing earbuds during the entire 30-minute ride to school, sitting only a few seats in front of the dying 6-year-old. Williams, the 6-year-old, was unresponsive by the time the bus arrived. She was then rushed to the hospital but pronounced dead. So the attorneys for the bus monitor, if you remember this, argued that the teenager helped buckle her sister in improperly, which he called an oversight that contributed to the 6-year-old's death. And if you remember when this story first broke and the attorneys put their side on the record, basically their argument was, yes, our client was negligent. And her negligence led to the death of the 6-year-old. But we have to look at the negligence of this other child, the teenager, because it contributed, it was a catalyst to the death of her sibling. Now, remember, this family is mourning the loss of their child, and they trusted the bus monitor, whose actual job is to properly secure and monitor. But this was the affirmative defense, okay? When asked about the harness set up on the bus monitor initially stated that one of the 4 hooks did not work and there was no shoulder strap for the wheelchair. She backpedaled later and said the strap never fit and that she wasn't properly trained on how to secure the wheelchair and strap it. Prosecutors, however, presented evidence of monthly training sessions where she was, in fact, trained on how to do it properly. Those lies indicate a guilty conscience. When asked about the harness set up on the bus, when she said this did not work, the prosecution was able to prove it did, and she did have the training necessary. Davila was also questioned about why she sat in front of the children on the bus that day rather than behind them. This is an important question because it goes to the negligence that led to the death of a 6-year-old. She said in her response, she did not know. She didn't know. But why did you sit in front of them and you're monitoring? Why not sit behind them? I don't know. Quote, I made a mistake. But you guys are trying to put me away for 10 to 20 years on a mistake. Davila said during her testimony, quote, "I'm sorry, my heart goes out to the mother and the family," Davila said before leaving the courtroom in handcuffs. Ms. Davila, this is not about a mistake. Mistakes are typically forgiven in most jurisdictions. This was criminal negligence. Criminal negligence is different than a mistake. A mistake, understandable. Criminal negligence, no, there's a penalty for that. It is not understandable. You could have simply done the bare minimum of your job and just put your eyes on the children. And this likely doesn't happen at all. Maybe an injury, but not a death. You would have been able to properly assess and aid because that was your job. It was your only job on that bus. She had one job. Quote, she had one job. She didn't do it. And because she didn't do it, Williams is dead, end quote. An assistant county prosecutor, Mr. Michael McLaughlin, said, quote, "She's on that bus for a reason. And she could have picked her head up and looked around. Had she done so, this tragedy could have been avoided," said Judge Peter Tobin. That's according to WNBC News. Davila was convicted in January and was recently sentenced to 3 years in prison. Davila's attorney, who claimed that his client shared responsibility with Williams' parents and sisters, argued that Davila should only get probation, noting she was a 4-year-old child with severe autism. Once the sentence was decided, he said he would fight to get her released early and registered into an intense supervision program. I'm obviously very sad all the way around. I could not imagine putting my child on a bus. This bus has a driver. This bus has a bus monitor. You assume this is a well-done process because you have a person driving, you have a person monitoring. Nothing's going to happen that will hurt my child. And you get a phone call later that day, your child is dead because the bus monitor decided not to monitor. 3 years is what the sentence is currently. As I mentioned, the lawyer is saying he's going to fight that and try to get her released early. All right, Sharon, thoughts here?
Ought to be lucky. The 4 years should feel real lucky. 3 years, rather, excuse me. The minimum standard for doing the job is just give a damn. You have to give a damn. Sat where you sat, did what you did all the way through because you didn't give a damn about the kids. When it comes to kids, you do have to care somewhat. Because you're right, Doc. Could have been an injury, could have been an incident, didn't have to be a death.
Right. That's right. All right. We'll update you if updates come.